Okay, these are the studies I've been doing for my coffee. Collab. I've been drawing the shape of the girl. I want to draw a girl inspired on coffee. So this is her face, her hair, like the shape of a hot coffee. Her top will be like a cup of coffee, a classic cup of coffee. I like this shape better. And the bottom part will be coffee leaves, like this. I tried several shapes. I experimented on the colors as well. Then I thought about my color palette, so I drew some coffee beans. These are already roasted. And I tried these colors. This is my color palette for the roasted coffee beans. And here are some coffee beans before getting roasted. They are green, kind of a yellow green. Here's some more roasted coffee beans and some coffee powder in that color palette as well. Here on the bottom I've got another sketch of coffee beans and coffee powder with some leaves, and I wish to include some reds as well, because the coffee, when it's on the tree, first they are green, then they turn red. They kind of go through this yellow orange phase and then they turn red. They're actually brighter red, almost like a magenta. But I decided to do this color palette with some orange, reds and brownish reds. And I want to include some flowers. These are the coffee flower before the tree gets the beans. And I would like to include it somewhere on my drawing. So these are the first studies I made for this project. Then I have my final sketch. Where is it? Here. Okay, so this is my coffee girl. I still didn't come up with a name. I thought about Chicarina, which is Portuguese. It resembles a real name, but also has to do with xícara, which is the cup of coffee, and rina, it resembles cafeína, which is the caffeine, you know. So let's zoom in. We got the face, very simple face. The mouth is shaped like this to resemble a coffee bean. She's all round, like a coffee bean as well. She has this earring, which is coffee beans in the tree. Her hair, like I told you before, it's shaped like this to resemble the hot coffee, you know, the heat of the coffee coming out. Her top is based on the shape of the teacup. She has this kind of bracelet around her arm to resemble that shape of a classic, a vintage cup. The other arm is holding a flower. That's a coffee flower. Her bottom part is covered in leaves, the coffee leaves. And the scenery is some coffee powder mounts. So this is my project. Now I've printed this on paper just as a reminder. The colors aren't very good because my printer is not that good. And this is my sketch. Now I have to draw this in paper, and I'll be using this aquarelle paper from Canson, which is watercolor paper, 300 grams per square meter, 140 pounds. It's a A5 size, which I think is enough for this project because I'll be trying to paint with coffee. And it's my first time, so I'm gonna experiment. I'm gonna start small. Well, let's see how it goes. I started mixing the coffee with water with different proportions to make different shades of brown. I made a little swatch to see what shades of brown I had. Then I gave a wash all over my painting with a lighter shade of brown. I let it dry a little. Well, this part always tests my patience. And then I went with a darker brown. As you can see, it spreaded very fast all through the paper because I guess I didn't wait enough time for it to dry properly. And I noticed that coffee spreads a lot faster than watercolor. That was the first surprise I had, and I didn't like the surprise. Then I spent my time with damage control. I was all over my drawing trying to save it, trying to get rid of that coffee, cleaning and cleaning and cleaning. In case you don't know how this cleaning is done, you have to add clean water and then dry your brush and pass it several times to soak that water in the brush and take it off the paper. And repeat this process as many times you need to get the paint just where you want it. Now I'm on the second coat of coffee because there are some places where I want it to be darker. Another surprise that I had that I didn't like was that the coffee, when it dries, it leaves that line marking the edge of the form you painted, and that's really dark. That is much noted on the shoulders of my coffee girl, and I didn't like that at all. Later on, I tried to disguise it with colored pencil, but well, in the end, I was not pleased with it. And here I'm experimenting something that I haven't done before. I'm trying to mix watercolor and coffee. I have my red watercolor here, and here is already with a tiny bit of coffee. And now the green for the leaves. And as you can see, once again, I'm mixing it with a tiny bit of coffee. Right here, I was afraid to mix too much coffee and then get that effect of the mark on the edge of the painted areas. Another coat of painting to darken some places. And this is how it looked before totally dried. Now I'm adding more coffee to the watercolor to darken the color and give a second coat to my painting. Now you can see the shading with coffee in her legs and the coffee beans, it's a little too much. Then I tried to paint her eyes white. I used this Koh-i-Noor chalk white pencil, but it didn't work how I wished, so I decided to use gouache. Then I added details with colored pencil, which I think goes perfectly with watercolor, so I decided to use it here also with coffee. Here I am trying to fix the shoulders, with no success. Now trying to fix the shadows on her legs. Here you can see how dark those edges are. Once again, I'm trying to work on the shoulders. And for the line art, I used the black gel pen, as I usually do. I don't know if the colors will fade out fast, especially compared to the watercolors, because I just painted it, so I don't know how much time it will take it to fade. Especially if I was to put it in a frame on my wall or in a place that would have direct contact with the sun. I'm guessing it wouldn't last long, but I don't know really. Chikorina is done. And now about that name. I kept on thinking to find a name that would make some sense in English, and I thought about Coffee-Lyn, and then Coffee-Lyn reminded me of Marilyn. So I decided to include a bonus drawing for you guys and for my collab. I hope you like it. This time I used my mixed media sketchbook that I made myself. Well, and that's another video for you guys. Next video will be about making these sketchbooks. And I love painting on them because I get some very nice textures. And if you like that too, please come back for the next video. I'll be posting soon, I promise. Here I'm making coffee green. And here coffee red. see that in this paper, the coffee doesn't behave the same way it did on watercolor paper. Here I'm painting with pure coffee to darken some areas, and the edges of these areas won't be as marked as they were on the watercolor paper. So I guess it's the way the watercolor paper absorbs the water that got that behavior out of the coffee. In here, this paper doesn't absorb as much because it's prepared in other way. I'll tell you in the video about these sketchbooks, and it works much better. In here, I didn't mind at all painting with coffee. My experience on the watercolor paper was really awful. I don't recommend it. I mean, I didn't like it at all. I was fighting with it all the time. I couldn't be relaxed just painting, you know. And here was a totally different experience. I really loved it. So if you ask me if I like painting with coffee, well, I hated it first and then I loved it. The color is beautiful, as you can see. It's a really rich brown, and here in this paper it works fantastic. And I proudly present to you Kathleen Monroe, and I'll be seeing you on the next video. Bye bye.